Namaste, Swagatam. We are very delighted to start a series on the Bhagavad Gita, a summary of each chapter, totaling 18, so that we may comprehend how our ancient texts are replete with traditional wisdom that is very, very relevant to current times. An essential learning to solve our problems of both the here and the hereafter and the forever. We have with us Arti Nagarajan ji, who has studied the Bhagavad Gita at Arsha Vidya Gurukulam, Anekatti, Coimbatore, as a full-time student of Vedanta and Sanskritam from 2014 to 2017, under the guidance of Acharya Swami Sadatmananda Saraswati ji. She has worked in the IT industry for 12 years before joining this course. She has taught the entire Bhagavad Gita once and is presently teaching it online for the second time. Vanakkam Aarti ji, thank you so much for agreeing to guide us with the summaries of the Bhagavad Gita chapters. But before that, I would like to ask you a few questions. Aarti ji, why must one study the Bhagavad Gita? What is the Prayojanam? What is the Bhagavad Gita about when we say it is a moksha shastram?
Namaste to everybody. It's a very good question because there is a saying, Prayojanam anudishya na mandopi pravartate. Without knowing the purpose of doing something, even a dull-witted person does not pursue something. So it is very relevant for us to know why one has to study the Bhagavad Gita.
Yes.
Would you think any person who is practicing a religion needs to understand the fundamentals of the religion? Yes.
Yes, as a Sanatani, yes. Maybe there are certain religions where you have to believe something. Here, yes, we always have to.
Understand the basic principles behind that religion. And our religion, Sanatana Dharma, is a way of life. It is not something which is done in a temple or in a puja room. It is a way of life. It governs our attitude towards various things. For instance, a lot of times we see people having questions about why I should do namaste, even this act.
Hmm.
Why is it? Unless somebody asks them from some foreign country, they don't think about it sometimes.
Yes.
Why
Yes.
I should wear a bindi, why I should go to the temple, why I should pray, why if I accidentally my feet touches somebody, why I seek apology, why I look at the books as Saraswati, why I can worship a tree or a stone or a wood. Where is this knowledge?
Hmm.
All this is housed in the Shastra,
Hmm.
which is the backbone of this religion of Sanatana Dharma. And that backbone, the basis is the Vedas. So, should I go and study the Vedas to understand? If it's your duty based on your Varna, then
Hmm.
you should. But Veda not being accessible to everybody and it being vast,
Yes.
we have Bhagavad Gita, fortunately, which is containing the essence of the teachings of the Veda. In the Gita Dhyana Shloka, there is a verse which is portraying the Upanishads, the Veda, as the cow, and what comes out, the essence, the milk, is compared to the Bhagavad Gita. So, Bhagavad Gita being a simple text which is relevant for everybody in all walks of life, which contains the essential teachings of the Veda, is something that one can study. So now you have to ask, why should one not study the Bhagavad Gita instead of asking why one should study?
It's a counter question, yes.
Yes.
but
One
but
has an inquiring mind to
Hmm.
know what are the principles governing this Sanatana Dharma, why I'm doing these things.
What I'm doing, yes.
When one wants to understand the deeper meaning of life, then one has no other go other
Hmm.
than studying the Shastra.
So we are actually helping a lot of people understand that aspect of why we do what we do in our daily life and giving the essence of the Gita to the ones who don't know about it. So thank you for being here for that, Aarti ji. But is
I'm now
Bhagavad
answering, the second question. Yeah, we'll go to the second question. Yes.
Yes. So is Bhagavad Gita, because you said this now, my next question would be, would it be an Advaita text or a Dvaita? Because let's say I follow a certain path, a pantha, sampradaya. So is it Advaita text or a Dvaita or a Vishishtadvaita text in Vedanta, or it's none of these, and these are the various commentaries are just intellectual commentaries and their take on it? What would you say?
I'm going to continue answering your second question, which was part of the first question.
Okay.
Gita as the Moksha Shastra, which will answer your third question,
Okay.
right? So, Bhagavad Gita is Moksha Shastra, yes.
Hmm.
It is not any text which is particular to a particular sampradaya.
Hmm.
It is the teaching of Bhagavan given to Arjuna and over his shoulders to the entire humanity.
Hmm.
And the subject matter of the Bhagavad Gita is in the form of two lifestyles which will help the person gain the same goal, moksha. What is moksha? Freedom. Freedom. Simply put, moksha means freedom. What is one really seeking in life? That enquiry one has to do based on one's experiences. If one has had a certain comfort in life, one has the space to inquire into. Because the person has lived a life of dharma, then all these questions come up. What is the purpose of life? What am I seeking in life?
Hmm.
And that the Shastra classifies it into four categories.
Hmm.
The basic human pursuit
Hmm.
as being artha, kama, dharma, and moksha. What does one really seek in life? If we analyze, then we
Hmm.
see that one seeks some form of security. Even an ant, a mosquito is seeking that
Hmm.
security.
Hmm.
Security can be in the form of various ways, wealth or fame or power. The next thing that one seeks, if one is feeling secure, the next thing that one seeks will be pleasure, which is called kama here.
Hmm.
So I'm all right, I'm secure, I have a good home, a good
Hmm.
family. Is that enough? No. I
Hmm.
seek some form of pleasure. And we
Yes.
have various vistas for pleasure now. Yeah, at
Especially
our
now.
beck and call. Yes, especially now. We have, even in the earlier times, there were a lot of avenues for that. So
Hmm.
seeking pleasure is one basic pursuit of human being.
Hmm.
And these two, Artha and Kama, are
Hmm.
pursued by every living being, not just human beings.
True.
But specific to human beings, there is one pursuit called Dharma,
Hmm.
where one is seeking some harmony within oneself and in the surroundings
Hmm.
by following a certain discipline,
Hmm.
some norms, some moral codes and contexts.
Hmm.
That is called Dharma. And that requires a mature mind.
Yes.
And what we seek, what we pursue, this kama and artha, also will come under the scope of dharma.
Hmm.
Following dharma, I seek artha and kama. But in and through this pursuit of artha, kama, dharma,
Hmm.
one understands that what I'm really seeking is not security, but in fact, freedom from the sense of insecurity. What I'm really seeking is not satisfaction or pleasure, but freedom from the sense of dissatisfaction. So, when one analyzes one's own experience,
Hmm.
one can come to this particular understanding that what I'm really seeking is freedom from the sense of insecurity and dissatisfaction. And that is centered on my notion of being limited. And therefore I become unacceptable to myself. And we had earlier seen
Yes.
how the problem of samsara is nothing but self non acceptance,
Hmm.
this notion of self inadequacy.
Hmm.
And the Bhagavad Gita, all through, teaches that the self is really acceptable.
Hmm.
What I have, this notion about myself, is a mistaken identity, is a mistaken notion. So Bhagavad Gita comes and corrects that, saying that self is really acceptable. It is not what you think it to be. And this is done in the form of two aspects. There are two aspects to this teaching. One is called Brahma Vidya. What is Brahma? Here, Brahma refers to the ultimate reality of all that is here. That Brahma Vidya is taught where the world is analyzed. What is the nature of the individual? That is analyzed. What is the nature of Bhagavan? That is analyzed. Is there oneness between among all the three? That is analyzed and made understood.
So
That is
Jiva,
Brahma
Jagat,
Vidya.
and Ishvara. That is
Yes,
explained.
this analysis is done. Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara analysis, Vichara is done, and their ultimate oneness is also presented, revealed. And the other aspect is for understanding this Brahma Vidya, one needs a particular frame of mind, certain preparedness, and that is taught through Karma Yoga, through a life of Karma Yoga. So that is the teaching is in the form of Brahma Vidya as well as Yoga Shastra. That is because it teaches Karma Yoga. What is Karma Yoga? Karma Yoga is presented for people who are actively pursuing their duties, action. They are doing their actions, not they are not renunciates, they are not sannyasis. For sannyasis, Brahma Vidya is presented. This Jnana Yoga, the way of life, which is called Jnana Yoga, is presented, where there is an exclusive pursuit of the study of the Shastra for Brahma Vidya. And this other aspect is Karma Yoga, where a person who is involved in his various duties is also taught the right attitude with which one has to perform one's duties. So, karma becomes a yoga. Yoga here means a means to the end. It becomes the means to achieve the end, which is moksha. So, Karma Yoga being presented, it becomes Yoga Shastra as well as Brahma Vidya.
Which is Moksha Shastra.
Yes. So, both
Both.
both
Okay.
Brahma Vidya and Karma Yoga lead to the same goal, which is moksha. Karma Yoga is giving the person the preparedness for Brahma Vidya, ultimately leading to moksha.
So karma yoga, then Brahma Jnanam, then that leads to moksha. So either one is like me and others who are doing their regular life, they can pursue karma yoga, be prepared, get the Brahma Jnanam, which will lead to moksha. So either path will lead to moksha, you're saying, but one might be
Yes,
just committed solely on learning this. The others get the preparation and then get to
yes,
moksha. So either which way, moksha is in the design. So
yes.
either, okay.
The final destination is moksha for both lifestyles.
And that is in the here and now, like you said last time, that it is
Yes,
something that one can achieve, so to speak, in the here and now.
yes.
So then when you were talking, Artiji, it seems to me when you talked about samsara in the Mahabharata, because this is taught in Kurukshetra, is war an allegory for samsara? Is this why it is used as a trope in the Mahabharata to bring out the teaching of Bhagavad Gita? So would you say that I have understood it correctly?
Um, Mahabharata is an itihasa, as we know. Itihasa means it happened in this manner. This is how it is. So, the context of the Bhagavad Gita is in the setting of a war. Yes. It was there that Arjuna asked this question and got the teaching. And therefore, we have the Bhagavad Gita, which is happening in the battlefield. But yes, we can see it as an imagery presented to also show samsara as the battlefield. In fact, here what's happening is there is an inner conflict, there is an inner battle. Always we see that there is something that we want to do, and that's something that we should do. So there is something we should do, which is to be done, but there is something that I feel like doing.
Mostly. And which is not what should be done.
Yeah. So that's the problem. It should, yeah. If it happens to be what is to be done, then one has grown to be a complete mature person. If it aligns what should be done and what I feel like doing, if both align, then there is no problem. But many times it so happens that what should be done and what I feel like doing are not matching. And
Yes.
therefore, there is an inner conflict.
Huh.
And sometimes what should be done is dharma, and what I feel like doing is adharma, which is not supposed to be done. So here, that can be also considered as the cause for samsara, because the mind is always in some trouble of conflicts. It's always having some vacillation. Should I do this or should I not? What should I do? There is a question. So that also is like the war in the Kurukshetra, where there is a conflict between dharma and adharma, which should win. And also, other than that, just this Bhagavad Gita, the setup, if you see, where is it happening? The teaching is between Lord Krishna and Arjuna. And it is happening right in the battlefield, yes, but it is happening in the chariot.
Yes.
Yeah, they don't have a classroom setting. It's he's Arjuna is sitting on
Not even
the
a tree.
seat.
Not even a tree. Like that.
Exactly, not even under a tree. Yes, it's
Yes.
right in the middle of the two armies. Not a
Yes.
very good setup, though. It is not a good setup. The teaching happens there. That's the speciality. Anyway, so Arjuna is sitting at the back of the chariot, and Lord Krishna is sitting in his own seat,
Hmm.
holding the reins, and he has to really, turn and talk to
Oh God.
Arjuna, and he's
Not very
looking down.
convenient.
Yeah, lower than Arjuna's level. He has to look
Yes.
up at Arjuna and teach.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but this imagery is also presented in one of the Upanishads called Kathopanishad, where there is an analogy between our body and the senses and the mind and the chariot. So it looks very similar. This Bhagavad Gita teaching setup and this imagery presented in the Upanishads are very similar. There, the body is presented as the chariot, the senses are presented as the horses which drive the chariot. And the Ratha Swami, the one who is the person who is riding the chariot, who is sitting, is the Atma oneself. And the charioteer, the Sarathi, is the Buddhi. And the
Intellect.
reins which hold the horses
Hmm.
is the Manas, is the
Hmm.
mind.
Hmm.
And there you see it is presented only when the Buddhi, the charioteer, is well informed. The Ratha Swami, the indweller of the chariot, will reach the destination. So
Otherwise, you can
here
go
you
haywire. It'll let the horses go wherever they're going. Yeah, there is
so
no
that's
management or
where to
control.
go.
Yeah.
So in this case also, this Buddhi can lead us to any of the pursuits, Artha, Kama, Dharma. But
Yes.
if it is informed, if it is open to the teaching of the Guru, who becomes your Buddhi, then one can lead the horses or the body, the chariot, to moksha. So one can
Wonderful.
reach the destination of moksha when the Buddhi is Krishna, the Lord. Yes.
Yes. So coming to that Guru and Shishya, we have an example of Guru-Shishya Parampara right here. And Bhagwan himself is the teacher and Arjuna being the student. Why would Bhagwan give this teaching only to Arjuna? Is it because he's a cousin? Or like you said, they're in the chariot, it's convenient so that through him he can give it to everybody? Or is there a special adhikaritvam or eligibility that Arjuna has for Bhagwan to give the teaching to Arjuna only?
Yes. Arjuna earned the teaching. So he was with Krishna all the time.
True.
His
But
in
other
his life,
Pandavas also were there. I mean, I know he was
the
much closer.
Pandavas were there, but he chose Krishna to be his charioteer.
Hmm.
The others didn't ask Lord Krishna to be their charioteer because he understood Krishna's speciality. He knew who Krishna was. Therefore, he asked him to be his charioteer. And then once he became his charioteer, even then he did not have any intention of asking for this teaching. When the war started, he was happily blowing his conch and
Hmm.
ready to fight.
Arjuna,
But
yes.
yes,
Yes.
Arjuna,
Hmm.
he had this intense desire to fight.
Hmm.
But then we will be seeing how it all changed, and he ended up asking for the teaching from the Lord. But why did Lord teach it to only Arjuna?
Hmm.
First thing is because only Arjuna asked him. Yes.
You have to
Yeah.
teach it if you asked, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. If one
Only.
asks for the teaching, yes, one has to give the teaching, because Arjuna asked him, I am your Shishya, please teach me.
Hmm.
Then Lord Krishna had to teach him. But also, as you said, there is some eligibility criteria for receiving this teaching, which
Hmm.
Arjuna had, which Bhagavan saw.
Hmm.
Therefore, he gave the teaching. Arjuna had followed a life of dharma all through.
Hmm.
Even though he was put into a lot of trials and tribulations because of the Kauravas,
Hmm.
all the Pandavas did not waver. They always adhered to what was right. And he grew up uh, in the presence of great minds like Bhishma, like Vyasa. So all these people had a great influence in his life, which
Hmm.
led him to become more and more mature, more and more informed. And that preparedness allowed Arjuna to ask this question even,
Hmm.
please teach me. And therefore, Lord Krishna taught him.
This gives me, I have two questions here very quickly, Arti ji. One is, you said Arjuna was ready to fight, he blew the conch and everything. So he was following the life of Dharma. Why would he want to fight the Kauravas? Was it more for the personal reasons of what happened to Draupadi or the kingdom? Or was it purely for the sake of Dharma? And also, now that you're telling me that Krishna and Arjuna were in the battlefield, Arjuna would have shown the signs of restlessness even before, but Krishna Bhagwan decides to stop the chariot in the middle of the battlefield between the armies. So all this is a design, both from Bhagwan's side and also Arjuna wanting to fight the Kauravas.
Yeah. Why Bhagavan put the chariot in between the two armies is because of specific command from Arjuna to do that.
He
So
himself
Arjuna
said.
says, yes, Senayoho Bhayoho Madhye Ratam Sthapaya. He's
Hmm.
saying, please place my chariot in between the two armies. Because
Hmm.
at that time he was desirous of knowing who has come to fight with me
Okay.
on the
He
other
was still ready
side.
to fight at that point.
Yes,
He was still ready.
he was trying to think and plan. Whom should I fight first? Who
Hmm.
are there here? Who is worthy of being fought by me?
Hmm.
So that he wanted to see. Therefore, he asked Lord Krishna to place the chariot in between the armies.
Hmm.
But
And
why did he want to fight?
huh.
Yes, is it because of personal reasons or is it because of dharma? It looks like it is both.
Hmm.
Arjuna had accounts to settle with the Kauravas,
Hmm.
because all through his life, as one who has studied the Mahabharata would understand,
Hmm.
they have been put into a lot of danger and trouble, and lot of mistreatment was meted out to them by the Kauravas. They
Hmm.
had to spend 12 years in the forest
Hmm.
and 1 year in Ajnatavasa in incognito because of the dice game which was played and manipulated by the Kauravas, and the humiliation that they had to face, and Arjuna's wife Draupadi had to face. All that
Hmm.
is in his mind, always gnawing. He
Hmm.
wants to avenge all
Hmm.
that. So he, in fact, readies himself for a war. If you
Hmm.
see in the Vanaparva, he
Hmm.
does special tapas and
Hmm.
goes to Swarga and learns,
Hmm.
gets this astra,
Hmm.
Gandivam, he gets from Lord Shiva. So all this is preparation for the war.
Hmm.
So there is definitely a personal reason.
Hmm.
But above that, if you see, all the Kauravas tried to avoid a war. They tried
Pandavas?
to send, yes,
Pandavas
I'm
try to
sorry,
avoid
yes,
it. Huh.
the Pandavas, I'm sorry, yeah,
You
the
may be testing
Pandavas,
my attention, maybe, whether I'm paying attention or not.
Pandavas try to avoid war at all cost. They try to even negotiate with Duryodhana by sending Lord Krishna as the mediator. he went and said, we want to avoid because it is going to cause a lot of destruction, mass scale. And therefore, just give them 5 states. Duryodhana said no. At least give them one state with 5 districts. No. At least one district with 5 sub-districts. No. At least one sub-district with 5 villages. No. At least one village with 5 houses. No. At least one house with 5 rooms. No. He said, I will not even give them a needle point of land. That is adharma. When one is supposed to give back the kingdom, he did not give. Even that the Pandavas were okay with. They said, at least give us some space because it is our dharma to be in our land. At least give us that space. Even that, when Duryodhana refused, they had no other go than to wage a war because they could not let adharma stand and reign the kingdom.
Yes.
The emperor has to follow dharma, and as Kshatriyas, the Pandavas' duty was to fight for dharma, establish dharma by destroying adharma and the people who are following it.
Yes.
Therefore, both for the sake of dharma as well as for personal reasons, Arjuna decided to wage the war.
And because of which you said he went around, praying. He went to Swarga. He went to all over the country, trying to get weapons for fighting this war, in preparation of this war. But ultimately, when it came to choosing a charioteer, he chose Krishna. Of course, he was his friend and cousin, but at that point, Arjuna might, he didn't get the teaching of the Gita. So why did he choose Krishna? Just out of familiarity, or what made him choose? Because Krishna was clear that I am not going to pick up arms and fight. So what was Arjuna's thought process? Because at that point, did he know that Krishna was Bhagavan and that he would get this teaching? As far as I know, I don't think he knew that. But what made him choose Krishna?
Yes, good question. So you know the story of how Arjuna chose Krishna. I guess, yeah, that we don't have to go through because both Duryodhana and Arjuna went to Dwaraka to seek Krishna's support.
Hmm.
And then Lord Krishna said, only, okay, you have a choice between just me, who is unarmed, I'm not going to fight, and my army, the whole army you'll have.
Hmm.
And first, Arjuna was given the choice. Both of them were sitting at both ends of the bed, and Arjuna, being the younger one, Lord Krishna said, you make the choice first. And Arjuna said, I choose you. Even if you are unarmed, I want you with me in the war.
Hmm.
And how can Arjuna make Krishna be with him on his side all the time in the war? You are going to fight. He was a warrior, Maharatha.
Hmm.
Therefore, he'll have to use his chariot to fight.
Hmm.
And where will he place Krishna? Not no another seat. It's not a car where you can have too
Yes.
many people in the chariot. Yeah. So then, only choice is Krishna becomes his charioteer, and Krishna happily agreed. You can see all through his life, Lord Krishna takes up any role which is given to him happily. He is not saying
Hmm.
that I am the king of Dwaraka, how can you make me the charioteer? No, I will
Hmm.
be your charioteer.
No
But why
ego.
did, yeah, no ego there. And in fact, in the war, Arjuna had to, he cannot talk.
Hmm.
He has to just use his foot to
Hmm.
show Krishna, touch Krishna on the left or the right so that he can drive the chariot accordingly.
So literally kicking Krishna. So
Yeah,
yes.
in fact, he's prodding with his foot, and that was fine by Krishna, Lord Krishna. Okay,
Hmm.
but why did Arjuna choose Krishna? Was
Hmm.
because he did recognize that Krishna was not just a normal person.
Okay.
His mother was a big devotee. His grandfather, Bhishma, had already mentioned all this. If
Hmm.
you see in the Rajasuya
Hmm.
Yaga, there is
Hmm.
this discussion
Hmm.
where the offering is
Hmm.
made to Lord Krishna, and there is this conflict also, Shishupala, Vadha, all that happens at that time.
Hmm.
So Lord Krishna is presented as an avatara by
Hmm.
Bhishma even in the beginning.
Okay.
Even though Arjuna did not really take it seriously,
Hmm.
but he was aware.
Okay.
And in if we desire success in
Hmm.
any of our endeavors,
Hmm.
there are factors involved. One definitely is our effort,
Hmm.
our own effort.
Hmm.
But what makes the difference between success and failure is
Hmm.
that grace,
Adrishta.
that hidden factor, that
Hmm.
adrishta,
Hmm.
that Arjuna acknowledged.
Hmm.
And he saw that the presence of Krishna is bringing in that grace.
Hmm.
So every arrow that has to
Hmm.
pass through Krishna and come to him. So there is
Hmm.
the Lord in between the whole army and him, and the
Hmm.
Lord can protect him by giving him the right counsel
Hmm.
in the war,
Hmm.
as well as being the altar of grace. So
Hmm.
he recognized that, and therefore he chose Krishna to be with him. At that point, he didn't have any expectation of getting any teaching from him.
True.
He just
Yes.
wanted him to be there, guide him, because
Hmm.
he knew it will make the difference between success and failure. And you
Hmm.
can see even Sanjaya says at the end of Bhagavad Gita, he says, Yatra Yogeshwaraha Krishnaha, Yatra Parthaha Dhanurdharaha, Tatra Shrihi Vijayaha Bhutihi Dhruva Nitihi Matihi Mama. He says, wherever there is Krishna and there is Arjuna,
Hmm.
success is bound to be there. There is no question about it.
Hmm. So Dhritarashtra didn't know all this, but he, at that point, before the start of the war, and he was very anxious, Kaurava's father, uh, what was happening in the battlefield. But he need not have been, because his sons had 11 Akshohinis backing them versus very few for the Pandavas, maybe 7 or so. Was Dhritarashtra not sure of his son's abilities, or he knew obviously that they were on the path of adharma, so they may fail? Was he already like, was he prescient that way? And of course he does not reprimand them when they're doing adharma, so maybe he has some awareness. So I was just curious about what was his, he was so anxious that he wanted to know what was in the battlefield for Sanjay to get his the chakshu, jnana chakshu.
What has happened was before the war, Bhagavan Vyasa had visited Dhritarashtra and also talked about the ill effects of the war.
Hmm.
But that didn't stop Dhritarashtra from stopping the war.
Hmm.
He did let the war happen.
Hmm.
And at that time, he had asked
Hmm.
Dhritarashtra, "Do you want to see what happens in the war?" And then Dhritarashtra had refused.
Hmm.
I don't
Oh.
want to see all my life I've been blind, and this is not what I want to see. I don't want my kinsmen to die.
Hmm.
I don't want to see them die, in fact.
Hmm.
And therefore he says, I just want to know what's happening.
Hmm. Okay.
And therefore sage Vyasa gives this divya chakshu, this divine power of knowing what happens in the war to Sanjaya, his charioteer and advisor.
Hmm.
Dhritarashtra's advisor and charioteer. Sanjaya got this power.
Okay.
And he could know what's happening in the war.
Hmm.
Now, the war had started, and
Hmm.
10 days after the war,
Hmm.
when Bhishma fell,
Hmm.
that's when Sanjaya comes and reports that Bhishma has fallen. So that's
For
a
the
big
first
thing.
time.
Yes. No,
Oh.
he had known what's happening. This is
Huh.
what he reported, that Bhishma has fallen. Yes. That
Hmm.
is when the Bhagavad Gita even starts,
Hmm.
meaning the narration even
Hmm.
starts.
Oh.
After 10 days,
Hmm.
when Bhishma had fallen in the war, he
Hmm.
comes and reports it to Dhritarashtra, and this is big news because
Hmm.
Bhishma was considered to be the most prominent warrior and who
Yes.
could defeat anybody, and
Yes.
he has fallen.
Hmm.
Then there is really very less scope now. So
Yes.
Dhritarashtra knew this. He was completely in, dismay,
Hmm.
and therefore he asked, "Please tell me what happened."
Okay.
So, yeah, to Sanjaya, and
So
then
he
Sanjaya
Sanjay is
narrated.
speaking from the past. Then Sanjay is telling from day one. It is from the
Yes,
past. It's not like
yes,
live commentary. Okay. Okay.
yes, yes.
Okay. Okay.
So then he asks, and he knew
Hmm.
that his sons were fighting on the side of Adharma. He
Hmm.
knew this all along.
Hmm.
Dhritarashtra knew what is dharma, what is adharma, and his sons were only, doing all adharma karyas,
Hmm.
but he could not stop them because of his blind attachment towards his sons, towards Duryodhana especially.
Hmm.
So his blindness was not just physical,
Hmm.
but it completely covered his dharma also. So
Hmm.
he knew that adharma is not going to win at any cost.
Hmm.
Therefore, he was not very confident about the
Hmm.
outcome of the war.
Hmm.
Therefore, he asked Sanjaya.
And coming back to Arjuna again, Artiji, he's in despair. Now he's in the center of the battlefield, both the armies on both sides, and he's seeing his cousins, gurus, uncles, grandfathers on opposite side. What is wrong? Is it not natural to not want to destroy and kill anybody, especially who are near and dear? Even if he's a kshatriya, that is a natural feeling. So, what is wrong in Arjuna not wanting to do that? Which is, of course, the whole of the Bhagavad Gita, but just to understand very quickly and succinctly.
Sure. Yes, it is very natural for anybody to feel the way that Arjuna felt
Hmm.
because he sees that his own people are the ones he's going to fight
Hmm.
and kill,
Hmm.
possibly. So,
Hmm.
definitely, he does not want to do that.
Hmm.
That is the thinking of any mature person. But one has to understand that this was not a war for personal settling personal accounts. It
Hmm.
was a war of dharma.
Hmm.
As the duty of a kshatriya, Arjuna had to wage the war. So it was for the sake of dharma that
Hmm.
one had to fight in that scenario.
Hmm.
So over and above all that, he had to fight. He could not just withdraw and say, these are all my people, because he knew that they were his people even before.
Correct.
Definitely. Yeah. Who
Hmm.
were on the other side, he knew.
Hmm.
But when he actually saw them, that's when it hit him hard.
Hmm.
When he really saw that these, my grandfather, my teacher, my own teacher, my cousins, all my
Hmm.
relatives are standing there,
Hmm.
when he saw them live, that's when it hit him very hard,
Hmm.
and there he was completely overtaken, overpowered by compassion, because any person would want to choose ahimsa over himsa.
True. True. And he himself says that I don't mind being killed by Duryodhana also if it avoids the carnage, if it is the best solution. But what you're saying is dharma is above this, and dharma, it is not his own personal account. Of course, that is also there. But as a kshatriya of that time, as a warrior whom everybody looked up to or dependent on, they were the kings. And if he does not establish dharma, does not make it right for the people, then the land is going to suffer. The larger good is not there. So for the sake of the larger good, he has to do whatever it takes, is what you're saying. Is Am I understanding it correctly? That he's
Yes,
torn.
correct.
Yeah, okay. The personal and
even
the.
though even though they were his cousins, they were his teacher, his grandfather, whom he respected a lot, they were standing on the side of adharma, and that is not good.
Hmm.
He, being a kshatriya, had to protect dharma at all cost, even
Hmm.
if it meant killing his own family members.
Hmm.
Yes.
Hmm. So Bhagwan, this is what he explains to Arjuna, isn't it? Like that is his duty, because the duty of dharma of a kshatriya is above his attachment to his family members. The whole of the Bhagavad Gita, especially I would say third chapter, RTG, am I right? That karma yoga is explained, and it deals with this question of what his duty is for
Right.
Arjuna. Huh.
Right from the second chapter, when the teaching starts,
Hmm.
Bhagavan talks about one performing one's duty
Okay. Yeah.
without this sense of attachment with
Hmm.
towards the result.
Hmm.
So karma yoga is taught all through Bhagavad Gita, not just in the third chapter. Even though the third chapter's topic is
Hmm.
called karma
Hmm. Hmm.
yoga is in and through the whole of Bhagavad Gita.
Hmm. Hmm. So, and here Arjuna, because he's representing all of us, people like me and others who are confused about who he is, about the identity, the real identity, and the role in society, and how we should go about fulfilling it. So, even though third chapter is specifically named Karma Yoga, so we cannot just take it separately and read it and be done with it. The whole of the Bhagavad Gita is to be studied for understanding our clarity.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. In fact, just even in the second chapter, Bhagavan gives the salient points regarding
Hmm.
karma yoga.
Hmm.
And karmanyevadhikaraste is also in the second chapter. And all through, one can see that Bhagavan presents a life of Karma Yoga as part of the teaching.
And of course, second chapter he says, but like all of us, we are regular students where we need repetition. So he had to go all the way to the 18th chapter. Second chapter. I'll read it, right?
Okay, sorry.
So Arjuna is running away from conflict, Artiji, as we saw, and he wants to find the easy way out. So he's constantly thinking of taking up sannyasa, even though he's a warrior of Aryavarta, foremost warrior. And it is typical, don't you think? Because people, even in our circles, in my circle, or even I used to assume this, that sannyasa is for those who cannot do anything else. And literally people will say, sannyasa is for losers, or you cannot prove yourself in regular life, for those who could not be successful. So could you please guide us about sannyasa a little bit? And because it is also one way of the two ways that Bhagavad Gita talks about, that is one of the ways to get moksha.
Um, okay, so in Bhagavad Gita, the teaching is in the form of Brahma Vidya and Karma Yoga,
Hmm.
and they are presented for different set of people.
Hmm.
So Karma Yoga is presented for people who are involved in performing their duties, lead an active lifestyle,
Hmm.
and Jnana Yoga is presented for sannyasis,
Hmm.
renunciates.
Hmm.
So the teaching is Jnana Yoga and Karma Yoga
Hmm.
for sannyasis and
Both.
other people.
Hmm.
So the audience is different, the teaching is presented accordingly, but both lead to moksha,
Hmm.
right? Okay, that
Hmm.
having clarified,
Hmm.
we'll
Yes,
come
thank
back to sannyasa. Yes,
you.
is sannyasa required for moksha? If one asks,
Hmm.
maybe external sannyasa may not be required, but internal sannyasa is definitely a criteria. That is called vairagyam.
Hmm.
Vairagyam, which is translated as dispassion. Basically, it means objectivity towards things as
Hmm.
they are.
Hmm.
And it's also presented as seeing the absence of connection between what I want and what I'm doing,
Hmm.
if there is a conflict.
Hmm.
So, what is sannyasa? If we try to see,
Hmm.
it is one of the stages in one's life
Hmm.
as prescribed by the Shastra. So
Hmm.
we have different ashramas starting from Brahmacharya, which is the student life, Grihastha, the householder life, Vanaprastha is the stage where one withdraws from an active householder lifestyle and takes to more contemplative place,
Hmm.
goes to a quiet place and then prepares oneself for sannyasa. So
Hmm.
sannyasa is actually given as the retirement plan in the
Yes.
Vaidika society. Yeah. What a nice plan, isn't it? You don't have to save for sannyasa. In
Yes.
fact, you have to give up all that you have saved, and you
Hmm.
just have can sit under the tree and be happy. If one is able to be happy, that is.
Hmm.
So there are different types of vairagyams that is talked about.
Hmm.
Vairagyam is this dispassion where you have something called prasava vairagyam, where the lady who is about to deliver
Hmm.
in pain declares, I am not going to have another child. It is too painful. That is called Prasava Vairagya. But what
Uh,
happens? She
Another
again comes back, yeah, another child. So how long does that
yes.
dispassion last?
Yeah.
Very, very less, right?
Hmm.
So that kind of dispassion happens for a lot of people when something does not work, when there is too much pain, when there is some loss in business or a failure
Smartphone
in
Vairagya.
relationship.
Yeah.
It's also called Shmashana Vairagyam because one accompanies some relative to the burial ground
Hmm.
or the cremation ground, basically.
Hmm.
There one sees what is this? Life is so short and
Yes.
everybody has to die. What is the purpose?
Hmm.
So, till the person is in that cremation ground, all these thoughts come to the mind. But
Hmm.
once the person comes back,
Hmm.
everything starts the same way. So
Yes.
that dispassion lasts only in that moment, only
Hmm.
till the person sees the body being cremated.
Hmm.
The short lifespan, whatever that anityatvam, the impermanence of the body, everything is seen only till that moment. But
Hmm.
the moment the person is back, one goes back to one's old habitual thinking. So that kind of vairagyam is not what makes up a sannyasi.
Hmm.
The vairagyam, the dispassion that we are talking about, is where it is backed up by a lot of analysis, a lot of vichara of one's own experiences, of the world,
Hmm.
what is permanent, what is impermanent, that vichara leading to viveka.
Hmm.
This capacity to discriminate is in the proper sense, not
Yeah,
racial
or
discrimination.
discern, or
Yeah,
discern
not that.
between. Yeah.
Yeah, discernment basically, yeah, between
Hmm.
what is to be done, what
Hmm.
is real, what is
Hmm.
unreal, what am
Hmm.
I seeking,
Hmm.
and what I seek
Hmm.
really what I am seeking. I am seeking Artha Kama, but is it going to give me that satisfaction, that freedom that I'm really seeking?
Hmm.
All this analysis is performed,
Hmm.
that leading to Viveka gives rise to the Vairagya that we are talking about for sannyasa. So, where
So,
one is able to see the limitation of any other pursuit and
hmm.
takes up a committed pursuit of moksha, and
Hmm.
that happens only when one pursues the study of shastra,
Hmm.
because jnanam is the means for moksha, and
Yes.
therefore the study of the shastra becomes the means for moksha.
Hmm.
And for this committed pursuit, one has to give up all other activities. One cannot engage in a full time study of Shastra if
Hmm.
one still has to perform duties. And
Yes.
therefore, the Shastra gives this provision
Hmm.
for a person who has gained Vairagya to be
Hmm.
able to drop all of one's duties
Hmm.
and take up a formal sannyasa
Hmm.
where one is freed from any binding duty.
Hmm.
One does not have to play the role of a father, a son,
Hmm.
of a householder, of an employee,
Hmm.
where one is a non-competitor in the society, has no other pursuit
Hmm.
other than studying the shastra. And the structure of the society was also
Yes.
that which supported this kind of sannyasa,
I was
where
about to say that. Yeah,
yes.
nowadays we don't see as many sannyasis, or previously they would come home and definitely ask Bhavati Bhikshandehi, and in my childhood, but I don't see it much. I don't know how it is in Chennai, Aarti ji, but we don't have that kind of society now supporting the sannyasis as such, apart from few places like Rishikesh.
I think we still have a lot of respect for sannyasis. You can see that, but yeah, if you go to Kumbh Mela, maybe you will see.
Yes,
So
yes.
yeah, a whole yeah, how sannyasis are treated. Still, we have respect. Still, we provide for sannyasis, but it is not in the same scale as it
Hmm.
used to happen earlier. Because who takes sannyasa now?
Yes,
Yeah,
that is one.
not,
And also,
yeah.
I think people understood what does a sannyasi stand for. So instead of thinking of them as freeloaders or just, not doing anything and they're not contributing to society, what you have explained, that they're non-competitors and they're studying the Shastra and they're willing to share it with those who ask. And that comes, that with that, I come to my last question before you summarize, is Bhagwan does not give advice to Arjuna until the second chapter. He clearly waits, and Arjuna states that he is helpless and he has surrendered to Krishna. Only then he starts teaching. So very quickly again, for you to reiterate on where it is essential for the student to request or ask for the teaching, only then the teacher teaches or any guru teaches. Could you please comment a little bit on that?
Sure. Yes, if you see the Bhagavad Gita, in the first chapter, Arjuna decides, I'm not going to fight, but he's still waiting because he has this conflict. Am I doing the right thing? Therefore, he waits for Bhagavan to give him, guide him. Then in the second chapter, in the beginning, you can see Arjuna is arguing still. And Bhagavan just tells him, please get up and fight. This is not proper for you to behave in this manner. Where is this sudden, change in behavior? You fight, get up and fight is what he says first. But then only when Arjuna has converted his topical problem,
Hmm.
whether I should fight in this war or not, to
Hmm.
a fundamental problem,
Hmm.
he recognizes that Self non-acceptance is what he is really struggling with.
Mm.
Anywhere, even if he wins the war or loses the war,
Mm.
he's going to have to face himself.
Mm.
So that he is not able to accept. Is it that he will not have problems if he wins or loses? No, even then he will have problems.
Yes.
So fixing some topical problem is not what he wishes now. After
Mm.
having discerned that
Mm.
what he is really seeking is this self acceptance, and
Mm.
therefore he asks Krishna. He
Mm.
knows Krishna knows.
Mm.
He is a wise person. He is
Mm.
the Lord. And
Mm.
therefore he asks Lord Krishna, please teach me, I am your Shishya. And this
Okay.
attitude is what is required for anybody to learn.
Mm.
Otherwise, it will just be some discussion. It's
Mm.
not a discussion, it's a teaching happening from the teacher to the student. And the student has to have that attitude
Mm.
that I am receptive to what you are saying. And he says, please give me Shreyas, please
Mm.
give me Moksha, is what he is seeking.
Mm.
In the beginning, he did not say this. But in the
Yes.
second chapter, in the beginning, you can see that he says this: you please teach me what will give me moksha. I am your
Mm.
Shishya. And it is a rule that you should
Mm.
not teach unless you are asked.
Wow.
Yeah. Because it
Wonderful.
will not be efficient, it will not be
Effective.
beneficial to the
Yes.
person. Just
Yes. Yes.
because the teaching is available, we don't go about sharing it with everybody.
Mm.
We have to see whether it is relevant, is it
Mm.
helpful for the person, will the person be able to receive it,
Mm.
understand it,
Mm.
will it not cause any harm to the person, that
Mm.
also one has to see, and only
Mm.
then the teacher teaches. And that
Wonderful.
is why in the second chapter alone, Bhagavan starts teaching Krishna. Bhagavan starts teaching Arjuna.
Absolutely. So, Nandri Artiji, that really clarified a lot of my doubts, and I'm sure whoever anybody who's watching. And so that we don't keep this only to a discussion, we would now love for you to consolidate and summarize chapter one for us. Please go ahead.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. So we see that the first chapter is actually setting the context for the teaching of Bhagavad Gita, where the war is described. So it starts with Dhritarashtra's question to Sanjaya, please tell me what's happening in the war in Kurukshetra. And Sanjaya starts narrating. He says, Duryodhana is talking to his commander in chief, who is Dronacharya of the Kaurava army. And he lists all the warriors on the other side. Of the Pandava side, he lists all the warriors. And then finally, he comes to his own army. And he says, I want to I want to name all the warriors in our side just to boost up the confidence. So he talks about everybody on his side. Then Bhishma to enthuse
Hmm.
Duryodhana and to show his support, he starts blowing his conch.
Hmm.
Then, when that happens, all the warriors start blowing their own conches because that's the war cry. So, they
Hmm.
have some special instruments, some drums and kettles and all that. They are blown, they are bet. So, then there is a description of whose conch, who's blowing. So, there is um, the first description of Lord Krishna and Arjuna, where Panchajanyam is Lord Krishna's conch. He blows that. Then Arjuna blows his conch, and all the Pandavas and all the other warriors in the army they start blowing their conches. That is described. And then this noise of the conch
Hmm.
really shakes the Kauravas because it penetrates and pierces their heart. It is so reverberating, it is so loud, and it is so strong that their confidence is shaken. So, that is one way, I guess, it's one of the ways in the war that you can easily make the other side lose confidence.
Hmm.
And then after that, we see that Arjuna wants to see who is fighting. So he tells Lord Krishna, you please place my chariot in between the two armies.
Hmm.
Then Lord Krishna says, yes, sir, because he's the charioteer. Then he places the chariot and says, please look who is there in the Kaurava army. But then the mischief that Lord Krishna does is he places it in front of Bhishma and Dronacharya. He could have placed it anywhere in between, but he placed it facing Bhishma and Dronacharya, which really unsettled, unnerved Arjuna. That's when he saw what he was going to really do. He was going to fight his own dear grandfather, his dear teacher, his respectable teacher, and all his kith and kin are standing there. They are going to be fodder for his arrows, and he didn't want to kill them here. So there he is completely overpowered by his emotions because he is so attached to them. See, we have to understand when we depend on other people for our own satisfaction, happiness, then we lose it a lot of times. So he saw that his happiness was only in the happiness of the others. Only when they existed, he will be happy. Then he starts talking about why he will not wage the war. So he gives a lot of arguments. So he starts by saying, "How come I came to wage this war? I see all my people standing there in front of me, and these people, these Kauravas, are overcome by their jealousy, by their greediness, and therefore they are waging the war. All right, but how come we decided to wage the war?" They are our own people. How can I kill my own people? Because of his attachment, he starts talking like this. He starts giving this argument. And then, if it was argued that no, no, this is not your personal war, it is not something you decide, it is a war of dharma, even for that, he starts giving some arguments. He says, to protect dharma, one should protect the dharmi, the one who follows the dharma. And these people, my elders, all these people are great dharmis. So only if I protect them, I will protect dharma. And if I am going to destroy all the able-bodied people in this kingdom and the neighboring kingdoms, who is going to be left to protect dharma? Then I'm going to completely destroy the structure of the society and the security in the society, and I'm going to confuse all the people. There is going to be a lot of confusion, there is going to be instability, and therefore all the duties also will be confused. So he talks about all the confusion which will ensue if this war is going to destroy everything, all the able-bodied people, and therefore dharma also will not be protected. So that is his argument. If you say I have to wage the war for the sake of dharma, then finally it looks like even dharma is not going to be protected if everybody is lost. So all these arguments he starts giving, and then finally he concludes saying, "No, I am not going to fight. It is better that they kill me." So that is some strange choice he is trying to make. He says, instead of me killing everybody, my own dear people, it is better that I die. It's okay even if Duryodhana kills me if I'm when I'm unarmed. I prefer that. And he also says, I prefer to just, not wage this war. I prefer to take up sannyasa, go to, Rishikesh, which is nearby Kurukshetra. Yeah,
Yes.
I'll be happy there, being on arms. That is not actual. That Bhagavan will point out. You will not stay there, as an bhikshu, because you are a kshatriya by heart. There also you may start fighting. All that he's going to say later. But here, Lord Krishna doesn't open his mouth. He is just listening to whatever Arjuna says, like a good listener, not opening his mouth. So there, Arjuna finally says, I'm going to be destroying everything and causing a lot of papa. Therefore, I will not fight." Saying that, he sits at the back of the chariot. Then the second chapter starts. So this much is how far the first chapter goes.
Thank you so much, Arti ji. And thank you everybody for joining in. And we'll meet again for a discussion and a summary on chapter 2. Namaste. Hari Om.